Now the first anime we're going to be taking a look at is Astro Boy, which is known to be one of the first animes to ever exist. And it came out in the year 1963. Yes, we're looking at this version first, since I think it seems to be pretty appropriate. So in case you're wondering what Astro Boy is all about, well, here's what it's all about. It's the year 2000 AD in Metro City, and the main character follows Toby Tenma, but that's just his human name before he turns into Astro Boy. And what happens is that he gets into a fatal car crash. Yeah, this show's actually pretty dark for a children's show, and his father, Dr. Tenma, is pretty upset about that for a very understandable reason. So what he does end up doing is that he ends up making a robot that looks almost like his son. And it takes over a year to do so, and he calls it Astro Boy. So after when Astro Boy is just adapting to this new life, his father realizes that he isn't really all like his son like he wanted it to be, so what he ends up doing is end up selling him to the circus. Wow, what a dick. So when Astro Boy is at the circus, he ends up fighting a thing called Zog. And the reason why they are fighting is because the ringmaster is just a huge asshole. But during the fight between Zog and Astro Boy, someone steps in by the name of Professor Ashimizu. Okay, honestly, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I try my best, okay? But the ringmaster ends up saying that robots need to fight each other because that's how they, get more experience and get new abilities and powers. So Astro ends up beating Zog, but he refuses to kill him, instead just lets him live. So the ringmaster does after that is that he ends up punishing him by throwing all his rechargeable supplies away. So then the professor, yeah, I'll just say the professor instead of just saying his name all the damn time, ends up trying to convince the ringmaster to give Astro to him, but he refuses to do so because, well, like I said, he's an asshole. But while that's going on, Astro Boy ends up finding a big huge pile of scrap metal which ends up being robots from before. So what Astro ends up doing is sharing some of his power with them so then they can go back to life. So much later on, the circus ends up putting up a show with a cannon called Sparky. And what happens here is that it tries to do whatever it's supposed to do, but it ends up exploding and ends up fucking everything up. But thankfully, Astro Boy and the robots that he restored came to the tent and started to save everyone. Astro even saves the asshole ringmaster too because, well, he's not that much of a dick. And he learns a new ability from that because now he can use super hearing. And by the way, the powers that he learns each time throughout most of the episodes, they can get pretty ridiculous at times. But this one is actually like a, it's an okay one. So after that, all the robots that were brought back to life are now free to go and do what they please. And as for Astro Boy and the professor, well, they just leave while the ringmaster is just crying in defeat. Oh, by the way, the reason why I haven't said his name is because it's another one of those names I can't pronounce, but I'll try it anyways. Mr. Kakatori, I think? I don't know. It's the best I'm willing to do. And that is basically the first episode, and yeah, I think I'll just explain the first episode and you pretty much get the idea from that. Because if I had to explain the basic plot of every single episode, well, I'd be here forever because there's over 190 episodes within this series. But it's basically just all about Astro Boy learning new abilities and kicking other robots' ass while trying to save other people that are in danger. So that's basically what you need to know about Astro Boy, and well, it may seem to be a pretty cliche thing, but you gotta remember, this is one of the first animes that ever came out, so pretty much without this, you wouldn't have your very popular animes such as Bleach and Naruto. And another interesting thing that I would like to point out is that you may find this anime to be pretty close to a game that we all familiar with called Mega Man, and you know what, you actually wouldn't be far off because Mega Man was pretty much an inspiration from Astro Boy. So that's pretty cool that we ended up getting a pretty awesome NES game from this anime. And as you may already know, the show is actually in black and white, which is understandable because, around this time there was not a whole lot of colored TV. I believe there were some, but not very many. Now as for the voice acting, I'll at least say it's decent. Now I know a lot of people would say it's really corny and cheesy and whatnot, but it's the kind of cheesy that I don't mind. If anything, I find a lot of the voices kind of remind me of stuff from Disney cartoons. And believe it or not, there's only 3 voice actors who do most of the voices in the show, such as Billy Lou Watt. Man, it sounds so weird every time I try and say that. Ray Owens and Gilbert Mack. So that's basically your entire voice cast, and well, yeah, like I said, it's cheesy, but it's a good kind of cheesy. And speaking of Disney stuff, even the animation sorta reminds me of Disney stuff. I mean, it's not entirely about it. I mean, Astro Boy himself and all the characters look fine, but I just find a lot of the backgrounds look really Disney-like. But of course, it's not a bad thing, and not only that, but I can't really fault it for anything like this, because like I said, it's one of the first animes out there, and I can understand that entirely. I mean, that'd be like me trying to say Pong is a terrible video game or something like that, which is, well, that's crazy talk. So yeah, if I had to rate this, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It is a really good show for what it is, but it's not like my favorite thing ever, but it is definitely an interesting piece of history within anime. And I'd say if you were at least an anime fan that has just never seen this, I would recommend you to go see this because of how interesting it is to see how it all started. So that's all I have to say about Astro Boy. It's interesting to say the least.